So, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. The $71 trillion truth. First of all, dollars were fashioned after the Spanish doubloons a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. The dollars were based on what's known as the pieces of 8. Silver dollars. They're about an ounce of 95% silver and 5% tin, I guess, to make the dollars rigid. And then everybody knows that around the edge, they got that grooving. And the Coinage Act of 1792 of the Second Congress of the United States defined what dollars are specifically and prescribed clipping the coins or, shaving the coins for precious metal content, and anyone caught so doing would be put to death. There was a death sentence associated with real dollars. So when we talk about the, the $91 trillion truth, $101 trillion truth, the $2 quadrillion truth, and we're not actually focusing on what dollars actually really are supposed to be. It's people just out of reality. That's what it is. They're out of reality. And most of these people out of reality generally have bar cards in their pockets. They come out of these law schools, and of course they have to worship at the feet of the gold-fringed maritime flag, law of the sea versus the law of the land. Very specific study in history. The law of the sea versus law of the land. And then, of course, you got the common law. But most importantly to this discussion, you've got the Coinage Act of 1965, where they took away all the silver after they splattered John Kennedy's brains all over Dealey Plaza. They shot him in the throat, and then they blew his head apart, apparently with a 7.63 NATO-type Mauser round. Center bore, center fire cartridge, very powerful. It's meant for taking down rhinoceroses. So let's move along here, ladies and gentlemen, to this giant Mossad, Russian intelligence, KGB, CIA, super duper secret Epstein and Company. Don't forget the company, Epstein and Company, and Donald Trump, super secret pedophilia, child molestation, probably quite a few murders. There's missing people and disappeared people and all this other nonsense swirling around in the toilet with Mylakowski, Benjamin Nitwit, the Yahoo there, Mylakowski, from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and all this Israeli, what do they call it? Oh yeah, Greater Israel bullshit with the Rothschilds. Because you see, when you're supposed to be God's chosen, you're entitled to take over and rule the world. Ask Mike Huckabee and, what's the name of John Hagee and a few of these other super duper Judeo-Christian sycophants. They'll tell you that the Jews are better than everybody else. Abraham, when he was about 48, 50 years old, about 3,000 years ago, Abraham woke up one morning and he decided he was going to be the supreme being, the, what do you call him there, the chosen, the chosen people. He was going to be the first Chabadian Zionist Jew. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, just to kind of fill everybody in on what I'm talking about here, we live in an interstellar cosmos, the interstellar space beyond the galaxies. There's galaxies and universes. And you know how old all this is, where we reside in the middle of the Milky Way here? Well, we're not on the middle. We're kind of out towards the edge, I guess, of the Milky Way galaxy. And imagine how old the Milky Way is. And imagine how old the interstellar space and all the empty vacuum between the stars. Can you imagine how old it is? And the empty, between the universes, between the galaxies, how old that empty space is. Now, only 3,000 piddly diddly years ago, 3,000 lousy years ago, Abraham wakes up and he decides that he is chosen of God. And I don't know how many millions of people have decided that Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard and the Buddha and Muhammad and all these other religious figures are they're valid. In some people's minds, I got to admit that they're free to think it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're, because they've got an opinion, that they're correct. Opinions are one thing, facts are another, which takes me back to the $71.5 trillion, $71.5 trillion reserve note truth for Neo, in the Matrix there. And Batman and Robin and the Green Hornet and the Fantastic Four and Captain America. And let's see, Superman and Lois Lane, Clark Kent and, Perry White and the Daily Planet, Tonto and the Ranger, Tonto and the Lone Ranger, excuse me. Folks, Neo in the Matrix is a fictional character. And a lot of people were highly entertained by the Matrix film, including me. But getting back to the reality and the truth here is we have a matrix and a construct of billionaires that have taken over the world's economic systems with people like the Rothschilds. And I don't know, I guess Elon Musk has got a couple of reserve notes in his pocket. Donald Trump and his billionaire oligarch cabal there and his butties, right? Don Trump, don't you have butties? The people that finance your real estate empire. Donald Trump. And let's see, who else? Vladimir Putin, and you got Zelensky there. And, some of my favorite people, I'm beginning to have some respect for the people of Yemen. And even the Iranians, because, the Iranian people have been around a long time. Back in the days of Mesopotamia, long time ago, the Iranians became on the scene. And I'm going to sum this whole thing up by saying, when that bomb detonated underneath Don Bowles' Datsun and blew his legs off, that must have been a real shocker for old Don Bowles. And then when Mark Lombardi was suicided and Brian Quigg was suicided and Gary Webb was suicided and Vince Foster was suicided with Terry Reid and, Barry Seal. And then quite a few of the people around, Oliver North and Secord and Robert Owen. They're from Assembly Point. There was Robert Owen and John Owen from Assembly Point. Now, who do I feel like in this matrix, construct? I don't know. I guess I'm Clifford and Anita Witham's son, born of the Witham Farmelo Guyette clan. There's a bunch of other cousins. I got a whole lot of cousins all over the world. And the last thing I want to say here is that Spanish doubloons, pieces of 8, 1 ounce of silver, 95% silver, and about 5% tin. Those are dollars. And to my old friend Sam Bushman up in American Fork, and to all my old buddies, even Leo Wanta. I think Leo Wanta was onto all this crap long before the Con and the new Untouchables. You ought to do some studying into Mark Lombardi and Leo Wanta, and then you'll kind of see how this whole construct matrix thing has been fabricated by some of the most criminally inventive minds in all of time. Gonna leave it right there, folks. We'll see you the next time.